I'm Phil Morgan. I'm going to talk to you about a forestry conference that was held in France in May this year, where Wales was represented. And at the moment I'm standing in Coed Fron Drain near Mold. It's a farm woodland right next to a wildlife trust woodland, the North Wales Wildlife Trust woodland, Coedwigwr, and there's very good collaboration between the farmer and the wildlife trust, and they're developing a training site for training in continuous cover forestry or irregular silviculture, which was the subject of this international conference where Wales was being represented earlier this year. My involvement with the AFI goes back a very, very long way. It was in 2005 that Woodland Heritage sponsored a group of foresters who went over to France to meet up with the scientific director of the AFI to understand whether irregular forestry could be applied in Wales. And so we had a delegation of three Welsh people. There was myself, Alec Dauncey, who is a lecturer at the university in Bangor, and Geraint Richards, and then two people from England and two people from Ireland as well. So we were a delegation who went over to understand just how continuous cover forestry was practiced, and we shared a huge amount of information with them. They were incredibly generous with their time, and we learnt an enormous amount from that very, very first meeting. And ever since then we've maintained this continuous relationship with them, and the AFI monitors the condition of forest. It monitors how the forest evolves when selective felling takes place. And they do this with sample plots. They have the sample plots that they set up in a very effective and very efficient way. These are set up in special woodlands which are demonstrating good condition. And it's also used in forest inventories, so it's used in forest inventories on a much larger scale. There are some forest inventories in Wales. There are 2 or 3 of them which are, there's a very large woodland in Carmarthenshire, 680 hectares. There are 171 of these sample plots in that woodland there. There's another one in Powys, and there is a smaller number because it's only a 300 hectare woodland, and there's about 74 sample plots in that particular woodland. But each one of these sample plots is a permanent plot, so it can be revisited, and if you revisit these plots you get very accurate information on how the tree is behaving. And these trees can be any types of trees. They can be oak trees, as we have in the wood in Coed Fron Drain where we are now, or they can be Sitka spruce or Douglas fir. Any tree is going to be suitable for continuous cover forestry, and the AFI have perfected this way of monitoring how the tree grows. And they do this on a network which is now expanding all over Europe. England and Wales and also Ireland are very, very much part of this expansion. But the expansion has taken outside of France now. It is in Belgium, Luxembourg, Germany and Switzerland. And these are all the countries which are contributing to the network and sharing their data. Now, the people who made this happen in Wales were a company called Select4. The Select4 is a trading cooperative who there are 4 members, and we have been over to Ireland and shared our data. It's part of a much bigger project. The Irish have developed a big project with European funding, and they're looking at monitoring continuous cover stands, but also at attempting to model the transition from even age plantations to fully irregular stands. And we've been able to contribute an awful lot of data by setting up AFI plots in Ireland, but also by contributing a lot of the data that we've been gathering for a longer period in Wales. So this has really contributed to this big project in Ireland in a very, very effective and very, very useful way, demonstrating that continuous cover has been practiced in Wales and has been recorded and monitored, and that data is of real value. Johnny Halson is with me. Johnny Halson works part-time for the North Wales Wildlife Trust, but also he works beside me 2 days a week. Johnny is a conservationist and a biologist, and so he brings in a very, very valuable support to my work as a forester. And Johnny and I both went together to the AFI conference in Chalon, and one of the main principles behind continuous cover forestry or irregular silviculture is the fact that you manage an ecosystem. You're not just managing a stand of trees, you're not just managing the forest for one thing, it's multifunctional forestry, and managing the ecosystem at the very, very core of this, so that when you harvest timber, you're doing two things. You're generating an income for the farmer, for the woodland owner, but you're also creating a living ecosystem. Well, you're maintaining a living ecosystem which is providing all sorts of different benefits. And Johnny is particularly interested in this, and the Wildlife Trust have really taken on the whole idea of continuous cover thanks to the work that Johnny's done.
Well, yeah, thanks for helping us out in this private woodland, which is adjacent to a Wildlife Trust reserve. But continuous cover forestry replicates natural forest ecosystems in a realistic way for most landowners in Wales. And this is the issue of, for me as a living landscape officer, is to try and engage and have a conversation with private woodland owners about managing their woodlands economically, but at the same time making sure that they're managed sustainably, and ultimately us getting biodiversity benefits and habitat enhancements as part of that. And as you can see, this is a productive private woodland, and yet fallen deadwood, very important for saprosylic beetles, some of them red listed, critically endangered, rely on that particular fallen deadwood. And then you've got other bits of standing deadwood where there's another type of hoverfly or saprosylic beetle, or even a woodpecker or a pied flycatcher that will need to nest in the cavities in that deadwood. But it's all part of the ecosystem that we want to see. And the landowner here is very supportive of our work in the landscape, and the work that the farmer's doing here is improving wildlife connectivity for our nature reserves in the landscape. So it's absolutely crucial that private farm woodlands that are managed in this way are helping wildlife move and thrive through the landscape. So yeah, CCF definitely lends itself to the type of approach to woodland management we want to see.
And while at the same time they're producing timber, in fact it's the very act of producing the timber that contrives the structures that are so valuable for the wildlife.
Yeah.
Whether it's the field layers or the different layers within within the forest, but for the biodiversity, as you've just said, whether it's saprophytic beetles or other pine martens or other creatures as well.
Yeah, and in this high forest, we're in a sort of high forest ecosystem where there's a particular type of wildlife that thrives in the canopy of the forest. Which luckily this particular wood has been managed. There's a history of sustainable management here, so that the wildlife that depends on that canopy, the field layers and the ground layers, the mosses, the lichens, the liverworts, and the fungi that all depend on the mycorrhiza interactions of the deadwood on the ground.
And it's so important that you monitor what we're doing here, and so that I described a moment ago what the survey is like, and that figures out what the stand structure is. It tells you how much regeneration you have, how many poles are in the wood, the age of the regeneration, how much small wood, large wood, and the quality of all these things, so that we have a handle on that. And because we come back and remeasure it every 5 years in conifers and every 8 years in broadleaves, we know if there's a problem. If there are too many trees, we know that we've noticed that we've lost some of that regeneration. So all of these things here are guiding us in our management, and it's a management of the trees, of the timber resource, but also of that ecosystem as well. And it's so important, to have this relationship with the Trust, because they are going to be looking at things in far more detail than I am. That you can do these specialist surveys, but if these specialist surveys are tied in to the inventory work that I'm doing as a forester, we're actually making a link in between the two, and we're saying, listen, we've got a problem here, and then we can identify what it is. Yeah. And that problem might be harvesting more timber. Okay. Yeah. One of the benefits of going to these meetings is that they've attracted people from all over the world, or certainly all over Europe. There are some groups in other countries who are very interested in what the AFI are doing, and they are in Japan, India, but also in Tasmania as well. So, and the USA. So, the AFI has reached out very, very far. But it is essentially a European organisation, but it's fantastic to come from Wales and to be mixing with all these different nationalities who are practicing a similar kind of silviculture, similar kind of forestry to the one that we are in Wales, and to see that wherever you are, by applying these simple principles, you can get benefits from both the timber but also from the biodiversity as well. And if you look around this woodland here, that there's this woodland hasn't been managed for a long time, and there are all sorts of things that need happening here. And the fact that we're monitoring it, the fact that we have got sample plots here, we realise that that there's very little regeneration. That holly is beginning to come in, and holly is an indicator that the wood is very dark, and if the wood is very dark, we don't get the regeneration that we want. I've just seen a little bit of ash regeneration by the side of the track, but it will come to nothing because there simply isn't enough light reaching the ground. And by putting in a sample plot now, we realise what the condition is, and then we come in and we take out some of this beech, because the beech soaks up all the light. The beech is very efficient at soaking up light, and it stops light from reaching the ground. That means the ground isn't as warm as it could be, and also there isn't the opportunity for that little bit of ash regeneration to grow into something which is, this sort of size here. This managed to get away, get through, but it's an exception. There needs to be a lot more of this sort of thing. So again, is it there or not? The sample tells us that, and then what happens to it? Is it progressing from one stage to the next? So it's all these repeat inventories that do that. Now, whether you do this in Wales, or whether you do it in England or in Ireland, or whether you do it in Germany or France, is the same thing. So it's fantastic to see these things in these different countries. And in May we were in France, of course, for the International Days, and we had one day of conferences where we had some presentations from different scientific speakers, and then on the second day we went into the forest and we visited 2 different woodlands, and they were managed by different managers, so they had their different styles, but they were practicing irregular silviculture. So all the things that I'm talking about now, about the lack of regeneration or the state of the poles, all these things were actually being seen, and they weren't attempting to show us something that was perfect, that was better than anybody else's. They were just showing us what they encountered in their day-to-day management. It was very, very practical, it was very, very transparent and honest. And they were showing us these things that every owner has a different objective. And there was one particular owner who was very, very keen. He was in fact a cabinet maker, and he was growing oak in his own forest that he was using for some of the work that he did. And he was very reluctant to fell the trees. He wanted to keep as many big trees as possible. It's like in this wood here, there are an awful lot of very, very big trees. And because of that, he had more regeneration than we have in Mae'r Drain. But the forest manager was saying to him, you need to be careful. You need to actually control that volume of oak a little bit more, because we're not getting enough regeneration, or the regeneration is not progressing enough to the next stage. And here, you know, it's obvious there is very little regeneration, and we need to actually initiate a transformation. So by going to France, by going to Germany, by going to Switzerland, by going to these different countries, we can see what the different foresters are doing there, and we can bring back that experience. And then similarly, they can come here, see what we're doing, and we can share that with them as well. So that is the great, great advantage of working with these international partners. We can show them what we do in Wales, and we can learn from what they're doing as well.